All right, everybody, welcome back to this week's edition of So You Want to Be in IT. You've been here before, you know the deal, what we're about, who we are, and what we're doing. If you're a first-timer, welcome. It's good to have you. We're a podcast aimed at those starting their journeys out in the vast world of IT. We talk about navigating the world of IT as a beginner, right? From breaking in to climbing the ladder to management, office politics, getting to the next rung, and everything in between. We talk about it all. So, as usual, I'm your host, Pat. You can find me on Twitter at PatAllen182, and you can find the show on Twitter at SYWBIIT, the acronym for So You Want to Be in IT. So, Dean is here with me as always. Dean.
Hey there, guys.
Yeah, there's Dean. He's on Twitter at DMacUK. So, go hang out with him and chat with us on Twitter. And we have another guest this week. I am excited about this one. She is a longtime friend, former coworker of mine at Rentokil, Mrs. Susannah Morton. Hi, Susannah. How you doing?
Hey, Susannah. Well, how are you?
Oh, great. How are you guys?
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining today.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so-
Yes, pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to talk to Susannah. From my personal experience of talking to her almost daily to about 6 months is the last time we talked, Susannah. So
Yes.
it's been a while.
Yes.
It's been a hot minute.
When you left us for greener pastures.
I'm sure I'm missed by some more than others, but that's a
Is that
different
the
discussion.
uncut part?
Yeah, exactly. Susannah, why don't you tell the fine folks out there who you are and what you're doing now for Rentokil?
Sure. I am the senior manager of IT service delivery and IT communications for Rentokil North America. So
Look at that.
I help our lines of business connect with our technical teams, like our operational teams. We have lots of different meetings. We take escalations. We meet with them on a recurring basis just to make sure we're providing the best kind of service that we can, because there are internal customers. So, and I also help kind of standardizing the communications that we send out to our various end users. We have, oh my gosh, I think we're at like 226 services that we run across
Yikes.
all the lines of business. So try to help our service owners communicate most effectively with their end users.
Look at that. So you're in the comms game, Susannah, is basically what you're doing.
I am. I tried.
It's a good business. It's a good business to be in. I'm not going to lie. It's a good one. So I figured this week it's a little less technical on the bits and bytes, zeros and ones that Dean and I usually plow through on this show. And we wanted to open folks' eyes to some of the other facets of IT, because Susannah, don't take this the wrong way, you're not necessarily technical. You just work with
Definitely
technical
not
teams
technical. Nope.
to do X and Y. So there's always got to be that buffer between the business and technical teams and somebody to make sense of it and to put a comm out and to make A talk to B. So Susannah is that person. So we figured this week's a little bit of a curveball, change up, whatever you want to call it, to open and expose folks' eyes to other facets of IT. It's not just people pushing buttons and zeros and ones and making packets go from A to B. There's other people involved in the back end, and a lot of the time they don't get the recognition they deserve because they're not at the front of the line helping the end user. So we want to bring folks into that and give some shout out to the folks behind the curtain sort of thing.
It's really cool. So what does your job look like on a day-to-day basis? Could you walk us?
Sure. Well, it's a mix of a few different things. I feel like myself and my team, we juggle a little bit because we interface some of the leadership teams. They know that we're an escalation pathway. So if they have something that has come up that's stopping their teams from working, they've gone the pathway escalating a ticket, but maybe there's a misunderstanding about how high of a priority it is. We can really help, move that along, make sure the right people are engaged to help get a more critical issue towards resolution. So that's one of the things. And those, of course, can come up anytime. It's not just in the mornings or things like that.
So does that involve you setting up meetings and working with technical folks and non-technical folks and then coming up with a conclusion of best path forward? Is that kind of the deal there?
Yes, yes. We have kind of different tiers that happens in. When it's a major incident or the most critical type of incident, we have a very structured process that we go through of pulling people together on a crash call, gathering the information that we need, making sure that the right people are present. And then that technical team goes off and does the work that they need to do to restore service, investigate whatever they need to do there. And then we check in with them periodically so we can help make sure that we're giving them the support they need to meet periodically, to send out communications to the relevant parties, help them maybe gather additional information or feedback from those end users who are affected. Let's say they've put in we need to help get confirmation that the fix actually worked and people can get back in and work again like they
Very
would
nice.
expect to be. So yeah, some of that like
Okay.
liaisonship, something we help with. That's on the highest priority where there's that bigger, more structured approach to it. We adopt that even on some of the lower levels with that as well, even though there isn't quite as much, built around that. But with that major incident process, I mean, there's a lot of rigor that goes into it, like along with, okay, after the fact, we have a post-mortem, right? We're debriefing, we're making sure we've identified the actions that need to take place and who's going to do them and when, so that we can avoid it happening again. And doesn't always work out that you can completely avoid something, but at least you can decrease the impact, to your end users by those actions you can take. So
Wow.
we help with that. One piece.
That's enough in its own right. You say keep you busy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so one of the other things that myself and my team do is I was mentioning we interface with the leadership team. So our organization has a lot of different lines of business and then some kind of functional teams like our finance team, our customer call center team, and HR. So we kind of have a mix of these groups, these user groups that may use different applications and services. They can be impacted when something happens. So we, on a periodic basis, will provide service reviews, we call them. So it's essentially the leaders of that line of business. They come to the meeting and we talk to them about things that they've told us are kind of high priority for them. We get them FaceTime with their
Okay.
application managers. We talk about those major incidents or things that really have impacted their people. We go through some metrics like ticket data. We use ServiceNow, so it makes it really easier to pull those things out, maybe give them advice, talk about trends, things like that, and kind of remind them about the ways to best engage with us. So it's a very collaborative, like partner focused interactivity that we have
Okay.
with them. Because we have not between all of our lines of business and those functional teams, it adds up to be about 9 different groups. So if you think of that over the course of a quarter, we've got quite a rotation going on about, 3 a month. So it's constantly kind of churning
Wow.
through those. So, but it's really good. We've helped remove a lot of noise where it was like, oh, we have all these problems. And then we actually sit down and we say, let's go through this in a structured way. Let's talk through this. Let's problem solve, figure that out. We move it through and categorically, we move to a much better state. We're always moving towards kind of a better relationship with them. So
That's
it's the
great.
focus. Yeah.
Susannah is the centerpiece of all the stuff and all the things.
No, I wouldn't say that. I am just one of many very capable people.
Look at that. That's the politically correct way to say it, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Cool game.
Yeah, that's right. No, so to sort of back up, Rentokil North America is a large pest control company, and they have other assets of it too. Susannah said line of businesses, so they do pest control, they do like sanitation, they do office plants and that sort of thing with their Ambius division. And just recently, Susannah, I heard on the waiver wire maybe a month or 2 ago that you guys bought out Terminix, correct? So you guys are conjoining with Terminix, which is a huge deal. So just a little background story there for folks that don't know. It was typically in the race for pest control dominance. Let's just put that term out there. It's normally Rentokil, Orkin, and Terminix were the big 3. And there was some other players in there that sort of settled. But the big 3 were those 3, and they switched spots depending on what month of the year you'd come and check in on the who's doing good and who's leading the race sort of thing. So now with Rentokil buying out Terminix and the conjoining there, that is another asset, or I should say aspect of a major merger. And when I was there, we had 400 plus sites. You imagine what those sites are going to look like now with Terminix coming into the fold. So, and I don't want you to go too crazy because I don't know what you can talk or can't talk about, but what does that look like of bringing that load onto the, and I know you and I have been in the fire before, Susannah, of the already tremendous load that's already there. And it's still, so you still have to keep Rentokil's wheels churning, but now you're bringing in a company the size of Terminix, which is pretty large. And how do you make everybody fat and happy sort of thing?
Yeah, no, great question. And I know there's lots of discussions going on with that. They're still a competitor, right? Has to go through all the checks and balances, make sure
The legal channel,
justice and all of that stuff. So we have a little bit of time, I think, to start to get our heads around it. But yeah, I think one of the good things that we have going for us, because I don't know what it will look like, but it will double our size. And we already have over 10,000 colleagues just in North America.
Just in North America, right?
I think we're close to 50,000 worldwide, or 42,000 or something. So
I know it's up there. Yeah, it was up there.
Yeah, this is going to be huge. So I think one of it I can say is the structure that the teams have put into place from an acquisition and migration perspective over the last couple of years, like really putting like repeatable processes in place of how we move new acquisitions into the company and how we plan for that. It's not just shove it in there and figure it out later. Like, maybe kind of was done a little bit more in the past when we weren't resourced properly. We're in front of that now. So we won't be shooting ourselves in the foot maybe as much, despite, I mean, this is going to be huge for sure.
Sure.
So yeah, it'll shape up. It'll be interesting.
So that brings me to another question then. So take Terminix out of it, right? Take the size of Terminix and take, the Terminix name out of it. So when Susannah and I were at Rentokil, they bought roughly 10 to 12 companies a year. So smaller mom and pop shops, and they were pretty aggressive on the art of the deal, if you will. And I think that was a term from one of the CEOs to say he loves a good deal. Shout out to them. But yeah, they bought 10 to 12, sometimes 15 companies a year. And so I'm curious on that, Susannah, like when do you and your team get involved in that? Is that from, hey, we bought mom and pop pest control down in Florida. Now they're sort of, under the umbrella. Do you deal with them like from day one sort of thing? Or is there like a grace period where, okay, you have to give them 90 days to sort of let that shake out, let the sand settle a little bit, and then sort of introduce them briefly? Because a lot of these were mom and pops that don't necessarily have the processes that big conglomerate Rentokil has. So that is sort of a culture shock to some people that they've done this way for mom and pop pest control for the 10 years they've been there. Now all of a sudden they're not used to playing in the big pool, and now they're like, oh, this kind of sucks. Well, what does that look like as far as how do you meet resistance with that, trying to get people into shape? I don't know if it's the lack of better term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this may be surprising to you, but people are not great with change, especially when they don't to be the one next.
So, they hate it.
And that is such a huge part of the migration, the acquisition and migration strategy is really trying to help people integrate. So it's not just the technical pieces. There's been a huge push in the company overall, not just IT wise, to really bring people into the fold. I know our HR and our colleague engagement teams, and our colleague engagement team is just new to the organization just within the last couple of years because of feedback that people gave us. Like, hi, I'm from an acquisition, and it was really painful. So we took it to heart, like to really put together programs with that. So that's part one, right? Help people be open to change, help people be feeling a little bit better about, all right, so my day-to-day job not only is changing, but all the ways that I do that. Like I've got to use a Chromebook now, and I'm not really comfortable with that, but kind of helping them into that in multiple ways. So the emotional way and then the educational side of it. But to answer your question, we do not engage, my team doesn't engage with them day one. The migration and integration teams, they work through, I mentioned the process that they go through. There's a great number of steps to help make sure technically we're moving them through. that there's a review piece of technology do you guys that we can quickly move to? Can we move your cell phones over and you still do your work? Or do you have a AS400, system that you're working off of that all of your customers are on that we need to make a bigger plan to move that
Right.
customer base over? So some of the things can move faster than others, but typically the pace that it's been is it takes a good deal of time before we're actually
It's tough.
interacting with them. Yeah. And
Yeah,
and a
it's
lot of
tough.
times they're pest companies. So they're kind of folded into those reviews that we have. Like the leadership teams aren't always just immediately going to be coming, right? Because they integrate in there as well. Their mom and pop operators might not necessarily, they may be going off to retirement land, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
they've passed the buck with that as well. Some of the larger acquisitions, that's different, of course, but with the
Right.
smaller ones, they're kind of pulled into the fold of operations there. So in those cases, we don't actually interact with them directly, probably at all. One that we did, if I can elaborate
Yeah.
just a little bit more,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
when we acquired the lakes management company, right? So Solitude Lakes Management and kind of the subsidiaries and related companies with that. That was a way that we did actually get a closer relationship going with because it was all new. It wasn't like, oh, we just have this acquisition that like fits in because it's in Indiana somewhere. It was a completely new line of business and they had their own set of technical challenges and they needed support and, they needed a little bit more maybe than just that smaller pest acquisition. Like it was kind of a bigger, newer, broader need that was there.
Broader
So
brush. Yeah.
yeah, we do have some situations like that, but they're more few and far between.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So I was always curious about what happens with the folks and the acquisitions that happen and then how open they are, if that's the right term, how open they are to adopting bigger, I don't know, say conglomerate that has a negative connotation to it, but you're part of a bigger umbrella and now they're sort of shell shocked, if you will. Cause like you said, people just, they hate change in general. It's interesting to me when your team actually steps in and says, okay, you've been a part of the business long enough. Now you can my way or the highway, that sort of, that
Yeah.
sort of
I
thing.
mean, on some of that stuff, we're a little less, I feel like there's this lag between, when we have an acquisition and us maybe interfacing with them. More of what we do in the kind of change management realm is when we have needed to pull what our operation looks like or an application into the 21st century. Hi, you've been running on an extremely old server
Yeah.
and we need to move you to our like enterprise
Yeah.
data center,
AS400 is
right?
not going to cut it.
So this
Yeah.
means you're going to need to log into that application in a new way. So that kind of
Yeah.
education, that's more of the change
Yeah.
management type stuff that my team really works through and trying to connect with them and help them be educated. And of course, we work with the subject matter experts, the service owners of that particular application or service. They
Cool.
have their key people in the business, which we always try to emphasize. Like you have to have your advocates in the business as well. Because I can send an email from IT 22 times, but until they have their business leader saying, hey guys, this is really important.
Yeah. Poking the
That
bear. Sure.
advocate is so key to helping people move through change. It can't just come
Yeah.
from IT or from security. You've got to have that partnership with key leaders and folks in the business that the business people trust for them to adopt that and move it along in a positive way.
That's huge. Yeah.
Now that makes
There will be
sense.
resistance. There's always going to be
Oh,
resistance.
there always
Cut
is. There's
down
always,
on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing's ever smooth. No, you got to get somebody with a title behind their name to say, all right, look, this is the cutoff date. Like it or not, this is what we're doing. That sort of thing.
Right. And that's part of
Yeah.
it. And also the likelihood that they trust them, right? Not only is it their boss or their boss's boss, but they have a rapport with them. They are working with them. They're someone in the business, a peer or a peer leader. Who am I, right? Like
Right.
I'm some chicken
Right.
on tea that writes the stuff. And though it might look fine and they get it and they can comprehend it, it means a lot less in that where it's like, great, thanks.
Correct.
It's the next notice. So
Right. Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting facet of, because Dean and I come from a technical perspective of, we're pushing buttons all day long. And, I've said multiple times, like, why don't these people get it? I'm like, they're not paid to get it. Stop, slow down. It's one of those things like you just, but no, it makes sense that there has to be some sort of medium or some sort of buffer there to, okay, break down technical term A into customer term A so they understand, hey, we're doing upgrades on Sunday morning. Your VPN will be not available. And lo and behold, you send out emails all that week, and Sunday at right when 10 minutes after you start, somebody brings a ticket in. Oh, my VPN's down. I need it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez, killing me.
Like I wrote it in English and Spanish.
I even use punctuation.
Yeah,
This is
French Canadian. What do you want from me?
That's true. It is.
Yeah,
that's true. No, so so from Dean and I's perspective, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure Dean has been through this before. You want to race and get this done, and you have people to impress and checkmark lists to get done, and you got to do this, and like you're there, or someone in your position is there to say, all right, hold on, slow down. We got to plan this. We got to write it out. Because I can't tell you how many times, Susanna, when I first started at Rentokil, within like the first 6 months, and I would do a change, and like we'd all meet on a Tuesday or whatever the change day was.
Yeah.
Like I would not have enough information in my change. And then you would be like, I need more information. I'm like, what do you mean? I just want to push buttons. Jesus. It was one of those things. So, no, but I think that is a good checks and balances to say, okay, look, because sometimes I think tech people live in a vacuum and it's just their tech things go on in their head and nothing else really matters, that sort of thing. But then it's, departments like yours and people like yours and positions to say, okay, look, no, there's a business here to serve. That's sort of who, pays your paycheck sort of thing. So you have to keep them happy. So I feel like
them what's in it for them. What is it for them? Or
correct.
It's definitely going to go over their heads.
Yeah, I agree. Dean and I can sit and explain what we're going to do and this and that, and people look at you like you have 7 heads. I do think the language is important to understand why we're doing it, and then have people sort of on board and the business on board. So ultimately, it's about moving the business forward, I think, and it takes multiple people and teams and time and effort to sort of get there.
It does, and you're still not going to get everyone. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. People learn in very different ways. Like we have this thing of, we'll send out an email. Well, like you're only going to hit, a certain percentage of your population, especially depending on what they do every day. So we have technicians that are out in the field and they're on, a mobile phone. So if I'm putting a bunch of graphics and stuff in there and they're trying to read it on a 4-inch screen, like you're totally missing your audience. And for other people, when, reading instructions or like putting something in bulleted form, they might do better if you record a 3-minute video, actually walk them through it. So those are things that we have to consider as well, depending on how complex the message is, how new it might be to them. It's just, we have to move out of those traditional, cut an email. But you're definitely not going to hit everyone, even if you send it 8 times. So
now video is a huge thing. So YouTube is the 2nd largest search engine in the world behind Google, and that's all video. So it makes sense. People learn better from video, I think, or at least they absorb information better in video form. I know I do. It's just the way it is. But I think that's a big piece of it. And I think the larger the company you have, the more there is a need for it. And I'm sort of confused because I don't really know like where that cutoff is. Okay, is there a magic number? Okay, you hit 5,000 employees, you have to have a service delivery department. Like, what does that like? I guess it's the nature of the business and how open the communication between the business and IT departments are, if that warrants one. Like, what do you see there? And I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. Just spitballing at this point.
Yeah, I think I can help fill that in a little bit. So one of the things about Rentokil as a larger organization, not just North America, is we run with the ITIL Foundation. So, and that actually service delivery and continual service improvement is a key piece of that. So if you think of, everyone talks about life cycles, software life cycle, so think of a customer experience life cycle is, you come in, it's something that we're providing support. We provide structure and process. We have incidents, we have problems, we have change. And then there's always like wanting to make sure that's consistently improving, that we're engaging with our customers. It's kind of this like we're gardening in a way. Like we want to make
Right.
sure that we're consistently improving, fertilizing, right? Ensuring that like the things that we're doing are making it better and helping the relationship and the partnership grow. And all the while, we still have all the things that we need to do. We need to patch servers. We need to do our upgrades to software. We need to, you know,
Right.
do our
Right.
disaster recovery, like all of those things in the background that still need to happen. But we also need to be able to keep the lights on and help people when they have a question about how to do their job, or if their network connectivity has gone down, how do I work around that? And can you help me? It's like the real life piece with all the maintenance and all the other pieces too. So
Right.
it all kind of goes into that life cycle swirl in a way, but I'm really more on the side of the bigger picture, right? Of like, they are our customer and what can we do to make sure that we're on top of all of those pieces that help a partnership be as strong as it can be.
Nice. So are these internal customers or external customers? I'm a little lost on that sort of a part.
Internal. Yeah. So as IT, all of these particular lines of business that are within the North American region, they are our
Gotcha.
customers, but they may be like distinct groups because they have their own operational teams and they have their own processes that are even separate from each other in some cases. So yes,
Okay.
definitely internal
And what would be
customers.
your biggest or today's biggest challenge with your particular role right now?
Biggest challenge until more recently, I think it was having enough people to go the continual service route. So we can take escalations, but that's very reactive,
Okay.
right? We want to get to a place where we can be proactive and get in front of things like notice trends, help coach our customers on things that like education or things that they can do better, kind of making things easier on themselves, self-help kind of stuff. But we haven't been resourced really to be able to get in front of things. So it's been very reactive, not really the way you want to be in a customer. I mean, we're all customer service, even though they're internal customers.
But how would you get in front of or be proactive in a situation like an acquisition? How would you know what they would need? Are you seeing trends in what multiple acquisitions are going through? And is it similar kind of material you're sourcing, or what does that look like?
Yeah, there's a great partnership between our acquisition team and kind of our hardware and our other senior leaders in IT in particular. So when it comes to hardware and being able to be prepared for those things, be able to get people set up on email, those processes are in place with enough advance notice that when we do need to move a bit faster, we can mobilize. I'm probably not the best person to answer all of the acquisition questions, but I do see how these teams interface with each other. And because of the requirements gathering that the acquisition prep teams do, we have less surprises. I mean, there will always be something, but there's less surprises because they're asking questions up front.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Excellent.
the one thing I did like at Rentokil when I was there and what you guys were sort of trending towards was more of a self-service model. And I know, Susannah, you had a big part in that, you and Lynn and Aaron and all those guys, gals. Shout out to Lynn and Aaron. Lynn is a big craft beer person like me, so we hit it off quite well. So yeah, love Lynn. So yeah, so the one thing I was sort of drawn to was your self-service, help yourself model sort of thing that these folks can do, right? They can open a ticket in the portal themselves. We have knowledge bases, right? So KBs follow, and knowledge bases were actually pretty decent from a level 0 knowledge base, which is the user facing one, almost like a help article, all the way up to level 3, which is Dean and I and top of the chain, and this is your process on how to do this if this is broken, sort of thing. So I'm curious on that. Are you guys sort of still driving that factor home of like more self-awareness, like chatbots and things of that nature to sort of get, like, I should say, get not less tickets because you want to help people, but less trying to herd cats sort of thing. If somebody has a problem, like they're not going right to the top instead of there's a chain there that you have to follow. And I think you guys were doing a nice job of trying to put more tools into the hands of users and trying to get them to do it that way.
Yes, definitely. Yes, that is still a huge initiative. I mean, it like literally every day we press that people should have as much information as possible in their own hands We know there will always be a subset of the population that feels much more comfortable with actually calling in and walking through something with a live human. I don't think we'll ever move away from that. But yes, absolutely. I mean, huge drive for that. And as far as kind of, I think some of what you're talking about, like
Yeah.
with chat and different ways of accessing, like that omni-channel kind of approach from a technology side, like chatbots, I'm not sure that we're there yet, but we want to get there. All the work that the teams are doing for knowledge management, building that up to be more robust will help
Yeah.
set us up in a spot that we can do that. We did that big push, I guess that was last year, 2 years ago. I don't know, all the time is running together, but
Just
It's
losing
all a
time.
blur.
we did a push for kind of that landing page where people could go to put in a ticket or read those knowledge articles or order a new monitor if they needed one or replace a laptop or something. So we are always looking for opportunities where we can make that better and more user friendly, capture those things to move things through workflows and things like that. Because we have great tools to do it. We just need to know it's going to be most effective. So with more people kind of added to the teams in very strategic areas to be able to pick those things out and look at data and see those areas that people are most in need, that's a way we can kind of move that forward and keep that growing in the most effective way. I mean, you can expand something a million times, but if it's not something that people are actually willing to help themselves with or move through themselves, then it's way less effective. So there's some look at that
Yeah.
too. Thankfully, like these tools that we have, they can see what pages people are hitting and people can click the, this was helpful. Not everyone does it, you
Yeah, I
know.
was about to ask, what's the response rate on like these new tools, and was this helpful? Are people like engaged in those things? Are you getting some traction on that?
Yeah, in a way, with one of these pieces, we kind of forced them to. So they used to be able to submit tickets by calling, by putting it in through the service portal, which was right. You type your own ticket
Sure.
essentially, or they could send an email and the email would auto create a ticket. We were finding that the emailed tickets most often were so vague that we spent a tremendous amount of time trying to reach the people back to get clarity on what the problem was. So we decided, and this was the campaign, part of the campaign that I was talking about. We were saying, okay, guys, in October, we're going to do away with that email method. And here's why. And we talked to all the leaders about it and we did the countdown and we made it competitive of here's how many people are using more of the service portal, right? Like we tried to make really like kind of inclusive, involved thing. And then eventually we pulled the plug and said, you can't submit it by email anymore. So we're going to force them in that case.
And
But
how was
again,
that received with the population or your customer base?
it's the same thing with change, right? Some people were like, what? I emailed a ticket. And yeah, that went away 4 months ago. You got a bounce back that said, you can't do it this way anymore. So some
Right.
people
Are they
mm,
accepting or
not
non-accepting of
great.
that? What like are they, or is it a lot of frustration and anger?
A bit. I think for some, so it's kind of a funny thing because because we lived in that, we're like, oh, we know that email tickets went away, but like maybe someone didn't have an issue that they needed to escalate to us since before the email option went away.
Okay.
So even if they saw that email and they heard from their leaders, like they don't have email anymore, it doesn't register because it's not relevant to them at the time.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for those pieces, like we try to put it out on the internet and we try to put it in places that we know they can see it before they actually. So if they go, "Oh, shoot, I do have an issue today. Where do I go to do that?" So it's kind of nice and clear for them. You're not going to catch everyone, but we try to hit those other engagement points with them where
Very
we can.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
tough. There's 10,000 people.
Yeah, you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
That's definitely
No.
apparent. Yeah. You just have to please the right people, I suppose. But in your position, has there ever been a case where you've made a change and then you had to go back due to maybe a leader or someone in your organization not liking the change or not being a right fit for the business or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, probably not related to like specific initiatives that I have led, But
Okay.
I've been involved in some like technology transitions where we realized we we may be talking about rolling this out to 5,000 people. We're going to need to break that up into some smaller pieces and help pace that out and get some buy-in. So certainly we've had cases like that before. I think over time, I mean, particularly the last couple of years, unless it was something that was like, oh, holy Christ, we got to move fast on this, like getting people ready to work from home 2 years ago. Some of that stuff, it's going to be messy
For
to
sure.
offset it with the executives in IT talking to the executives of each of the lines of business that we support. And we know it won't be perfect, but there's a little bit of grace in a situation like that. But certainly, I mean, we've had changes that have gone wrong and we've had to roll them back. I mean, it's just like any other technology shop, like you can test and prepare, and it might not always 100% go the way you want it to. So, but
And
we
do you,
try to be
Don't get
transparent
me started.
yeah,
and honest about it, and then people respect it a little bit more. Then they're a little less critical, right?
absolutely. Yeah. As long as you give them the transparency. Yeah. It's
Yep.
definitely key.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way, the
Yeah,
transparency.
for sure.
To having people try change. So Susannah, you get involved. I want to sort of rewind a little bit, but you get involved in a lot of change management process as well, and communications and things of that nature. And I know that and everybody's change management is different. Some people have a call, some people don't. Some people get it approved by like a board, and you just basically make your changes, and by the grace of God, it gets approved, and you carry out your time, sort of thing. So everyone's a little different, and I know it sort of falls into that ITIL framework, and everybody tries to funnel their stuff through that and whatnot. I feel like change is a double-edged sword in that aspect of, yeah, you have to document it. Yeah, you can't just fly by the seat of your pants, and other people have to know what's going on when you're trying to make a change. But the other part of it is the red tape that's got to go through, and all the questions and all this stuff. But it's all for good. It's just some people can think it's a lot of unnecessary paperwork. And I've been a part of some places that the paperwork is just for the sake of doing paperwork, and that's not aimed at Rentokil by any means. They actually had a decent change structure. So I'm feeling like you're part of change. I think change is getting to be a bigger part of organizations. Even the smaller ones are starting to lend their ear to change, do it that way in that structured manner. So you have something to look back on and say, okay, this is how we did it last time. These were our pluses. These were our minuses. Where can we do better? Things of that nature. So you talk about the change process a little bit there, and sort of what your role is in that A to Z process, if you will.
Yeah, we actually, since you departed the organization, there's actually been some improvements to the change management
Oh,
See that,
process.
Pat? You're holding the team back.
that's it. All it took was for me to leave. What did somebody
Lovely.
It's like, what the hell? Just if you didn't want me, just give me the papers. It's okay.
I'm willing to say that they were unrelated events.
Okay. All right.
So one of the things is that we brought a little bit more structure than really the global, like the group team had. We knew we needed some additional structure for the North American group because we have so many applications and services. So having that
Yeah.
standardization where we can run things through the change advisory board, which now the way that those meetings go on a weekly basis, we meet to review changes that have come through. They've been planned. There's an implementation and a rollback plan for each communication plan. We talk through what other services it might impact, especially when it's on the infrastructure side. We know that there could be multiple services that are hosted on one server that we're doing some kind of like patching or fix or move or migration, whatever. So it's really that awareness piece. But I think one of the opportunities we found in rolling out a little bit more robust of a process is that it helped people realize that preparation that they were doing for the implementation plans and the buy-in that they got by bringing all that due diligence and bringing it to the board to say, hey, let's look through this, right? They were fully supported after the fact because, again, not everything always goes 100% to plan, no matter how well you plan it, right? There can be a snafu.
Sure.
But in the cases where it came through change advisory board properly, and something went wrong for whatever reason, they were fully supported by the leadership team. And went, yes, it went through the process. We have your back. It's okay. However, if you don't follow that process and we're not aware, and you can't help have that kind of upfront awareness and review with it, then it's a lot tougher to be prepared for that when something does go
Right.
wrong and we're all going, what happened?
Who pushed the button?
So
Right.
it gives that kind of additional assurance that we have your back kind of thing, that kind of dynamic, I should say, for
Insurance
people who
policy.
are actually doing the work, pushing the button. It's not just like you're out on an island. Good
Right.
luck, right?
Get out there and be somebody. All right.
But it definitely is a part of that ITIL foundation structure, very much a part of an accountability approach. Awareness and accountability is really big. Understanding who's doing what, when they're doing it, why, and what else is affected. My part in the change advisory board, I mean, aside from helping review them, I can't say if a test plan is good enough. Did you consider
Right.
XYZ super technical thing? Like,
Why
that is
not?
not why I am there at all. Hey, after all the things that you're saying are happening, if you're going to have an outage, do we need to let end users of this service know about that? Is that something that we have an agreement with them that even if it's in the middle of the night, but we're going to do some kind of maintenance on something? Do they want to know? Because a lot of times our line of business leaders, they want to know. And it's good because then they're like, oh, good, you're
Sure.
really supporting us. Like, you're doing
They're
work to
invested
take
in it.
care
Yeah.
of us. So
Yep.
it's not a bad thing to say we have maintenance to do. Like, it's a fact of life when anyone's using any kind of technology at all. Like, you got to accept your updates. So
That's fair.
Right.
That's super fair. Yeah. So ask for permission and not for
Yeah, you
forgiveness.
can't argue that.
Different
That's
way I
it.
live, but yeah, I like it.
That's it. No, because when I left Rentokil, they were in that weird nobody does any changes until after midnight phase, and I was like,
You're one of those places.
no, it's so uncomfortable.
that was oh my god, that was rough. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I need my beauty sleep. This is insane.
I've worked at places where a change is going to be done till 2:00 in the morning.
It's true.
Like working on telecommunication systems, that's rough. You got all the pimps and
Yeah,
drug
I
dealers
bet.
you can't cut off. So
Yeah.
until 2, you got to give them a little space, and then but yeah, that's really rough. But 12 it started at 12 for us, and then it moved to 2. So I wonder if that might when more services and stuff are go in your systems and you impact them later, they change your window.
In the business's defense, like there was a stretch there where people were just pushing buttons and it was Wild West, and management was like, hold on, time out, nobody touch another bleep button. Like, it was insane. I was just like, ooh, that's a little, it's a little too close for comfort. But then the rest of us had, kind of shot the rest of us in the foot trying to do a small change, and people were like, nope, midnight. I'm like, oh man, you're killing me.
How
Jeez.
strict is it though? Like, in the respect, like if you're doing a change on, let's say, a server, for instance, and that server has redundancy, can you do that? Are you accepting of doing that change at midnight, or can you do that change at lower traffic hours? Like, what does that kind of look like? Is there do you guys exercise that redundancy if you have that in your infrastructure, or is it a thing where there's a no-go, I just want to do it at midnight and that's final kind of deal?
There's definitely flexibility depending on the situation.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
The way that these changes are documented and brought in front of the board, they're very specific questions that are asked.
Okay.
Like, what else is there? Is there an outage impact? There's all these drop downs and things that ultimately lead us to the flags that go, right?
Oh, so it's just like a series of questions you answer it. Okay. And so that keeps you consistent all the time? Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty well. And then we go into the weekly meeting, the change advisory board meeting, and we have the opportunity to look through it again. I mean, we can look at it in advance, of course, but we get into the meeting and we can ask the change owner and the person who is going to actually do the change, if they could be 2 different people, questions about it to clarify and work through that before it's ultimately approved to move forward. So that additional discussion and the rigor that goes into that, the assurances, right, that that all of those pieces are in place and have been considered and are clear,
Okay.
help move it forward. So it doesn't have to be as overly locked down as it had at one time.
Okay.
So
That was rough.
it
That was rough
and
city, man.
man, it was burning
It was
people
awful.
out really bad because they're like,
Heck yeah.
so I have to do that, but like I also have my day job. So like
Right.
so I'm just
Right.
gonna work nights doing changes now and not
Right.
coming into
Yeah.
play. Yeah, it was too much. Not sustainable. Thankfully, it was just a short-term thing. So
That's good. No, that's
So
good.
how do you guys, how did
yeah,
they get around that? They just have an on-call guy doing the changes at night, or?
it was also a case-by-case basis. In some cases, we didn't have multiple people that could always do the same things, kind of SMEs on certain areas, services, servers, things like that. So those were taken case-by-case basis. Schedule was worked out. And if it meant that for the change that they did, that they then didn't come in the next day, then that would be part of the discussion and the planning within that team. So
Beautiful. I miss those days. Day off.
that's funny. No, so the one thing that I had, I don't want to say issue, but it was a little eye-opening when I was at Rentokil, and I'm not about to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but it was a legit question. So especially like on the network side, like a lot of things run through the network people, and like a lot of applications and a lot of just basically everything. The network is the plumbing. So what we would get was, from a developer, from somebody in another department, and say, okay, I need this. And it's like, all right. And then people were begging for an implementation plan. I'm like, I'm just the guy with the buttons. I don't know what the end goal is or where to start or where the end, the start or the end is. I'm the guy in the middle opening a port, or I am adding a route, or whatever you need. So that there was a lot of like, here, heave it over the fence and have the network guy catch it, because he's the guy pushing the buttons at night. And then like we would get heck because we didn't have a plan filled out. And I'm like, I don't know what the plan is. So I felt like a giant middleman in that aspect. So is there a lot still to that, or whoever's requesting the change, do they have to have an implementation plan before it's at cab, and then hand it off to the person doing the job?
there shouldn't be.
That was the big part I had. And I was like, yeah. So
No, I
it's tough.
I know. And it was super uncomfortable for so many people on the infrastructure team, right? You're a team and hosting team sometimes too. So one of the things that has changed with the change management approach is that until there's been collaboration and that implementation plan is documented, it doesn't even come to cab. It's just not even on the agenda. Like those ducks have to be put in a row before it even comes into that meeting for discussion or review. So
Cool.
yes, because it was bringing a lot of pain, and it was like
Finally.
teams, like not a good team dynamic when someone's
No, there was.
so
Yeah. Yeah, you're sort of like holding the bag. I was just like, what am I doing here? And then, certain people would yell, and I had this from like, I don't have anything. I'm just pushing the buttons. It's program that he wants. It's one of those things. So it was an awkward dynamic there, do one of these, try to point in the right direction and get the people in the right room. And I have a day job. I got other things to do.
yeah, sure. Well, and I think depending on personalities and frequency that people, might be a
that's a big
change
one.
owner, like it's probably some teams maybe have progressed a little bit faster than others on it.
Right.
So it's just like anything else. Like some of it just takes practice. Some of it takes a comfort level that, okay, we're all on the same team. Let's work together. You can have a conversation before you get into a big meeting together to plan it out. So yeah, we're trying. I mean, as much as comes through there, it's again, like never going to be super perfect, but we just keep trying to move it in the right direction. So
that's all you can do. Dean, do you have anything else? We're kind of getting up on the hour, and I know we try to keep it to an hour.
No, nothing else from me. No, it's really informative though. Really super.
Oh, I was very concerned that I would bore the pants off you guys.
No, really is. No, it's really a lot of insight here.
A lot of insight. I like it. Now, Susannah and I go way back. We've worked together for, almost daily there for a while. Susannah, you and I were putting our heads together with people changing jobs and directions, and who we report to.
So Susannah told you no.
She's told me no more times than I care to admit or count. So.
Okay.
Is this even English?
Yeah. I know what he's doing. He's been here 5 years. Well, it's not pretty.
I don't remember what's happening. But...
Some people are worse than others. That's all I'll say.
We all have our strengths.
That's right.
And
that's right. That's right. We appreciate everybody joining this week to chat with us about some softer side of IT in this realm of service delivery and how it all works together on the back end of making IT teams well-rounded and not just a bunch of zeros and ones and bits and bytes and then magically comes out as a product or an app. So thanks, Susannah. This has been really cool. Appreciate you joining us and hanging out and talking.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so insightful. And definitely displays the sophistication side of IT.
That's it.
Oh boy.
I think so anyway.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, guys.
You brought a little class to this podcast, so we appreciate that.
I think so.
Folks, we want to let you know that we have been nominated as a finalist for the Cisco IT Blog Awards. So our podcast has been making its way to the right ears, to the right people. So I think voting is, I think it ends February 18th, I think I saw today somewhere. So if you'd like the podcast, which I hope you do, you're listening, go out there and vote for us. The form or the link will be in the show notes if you want to go out and vote for us. And there's some other really great content creators on there as well. So we're in some really good company. So yeah, Cisco Champions runs a IT blog awards that they open up and we have been named a finalist. So that's just to be named a finalist is cool with us. So we're just talking into a mic and helping as many people as we can. So that's there. And then also make sure you visit our website. So you want to be in IT.com. You can subscribe to the show from various platforms from there, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. There's a plain RSS feed up there as well. So anywhere you want to listen to us or whatever form, we have you covered there from the website. And you can listen to shows right from the website as well. They're all up there with the show notes and all that kind of stuff. So go check that out. As always, you can throw us a rating on iTunes. That helps play with their algorithm and gets us to the top of the list and more eyes and more listens. So that's always good there too. Or simply tell a friend, right? So we all like the word of mouth. That I think that works better some days now in this technology driven era. Some of the technology does. So simply tell a friend, and that's cool too. Sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, right? Facebook.com/so you want to be in IT. The Discord server is out there for you guys to come and chat with us as well. So that's sywbit.com/Discord. So you're going to do that. That gives you an invite right to the chat platform that we're on. And then obviously the survey that's still out there. So surveys can be out there for a couple more weeks. We've gotten some really good feedback on how we're doing and what we could work on, improve, things of that nature. So you want to be part of that. So just a couple questions. I think there's 10 or 12 questions on there. It's all the information is private. We don't sell it or anything. We just aggregate it to just kind of get a little closer and tweak the show to some of your likings and see how we can do better. So sywbit.com/survey. So you can do that. It's a Google form. So go check that out. And I think that's it. Dean, we'll see you next week. Susannah, again, thank you very much. This has been awesome. And that's it. That's all I got. See you guys next week.
Thank you. Yeah. See you soon. Thank you, Susannah. And yeah, thanks again for joining, folks.
See you folks next week. Bye.
Is there anybody there?